This week on Carlie's Couch, we explore how being a know-it-all could be impacting your life.
In a great way, probably. Welcome to Carlie's Couch, the podcast from two women who know everything about everything.
All the things.
Pretty much. So respect us as such, but for everybody else, not just kidding. I know this episode about to be all about me, y'all. How are you, Carlie?
I am feeling pretty peaceful today. Pretty peaceful and productive. How are you?
Good. I've had a lot of just like all the energy since, well, by the time y'all hear this, hopefully it'll still have continued. But there's been a lot of good energy. I remember I woke up yesterday and I was just like feeling good. And then all these good things just were happening. And I guess some of it's not that it was good or bad, but it just, everything felt like people were hitting me up and having good conversations or things were happening. And so it was great. So I feel pretty good right now. And yeah, I think it's just Aquarius season.
Oh, yeah, it is your season.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. We started back with the kids this past week, and it was great to see them. And then one of them came back. He was too cool for us.
Wait, what kids?
Change the tune.
I'm thinking about the summer camp. This the
after school program. So they took a break for the holidays, and we're back cooking and doing music and art and all kind of cool stuff with them. And one of the kids was too cool for us last semester. But he came back, and I was laughing because he was like, "How are you today, Miss Carlie?" And I was like, "You know, I'm feeling pretty peaceful." He's like, "Is that relative, or do you find yourself often in a state of peace?" And I was like, great question. I was like, well, I have had a peaceful day, you know, but also I guess I am generally in a state of peacefulness. And he was like, so the latter. And I was like,
was he trying to be funny or he was
no, I think he was
in the zone?
I think he might be a philosopher.
Was that how he always is?
A little.
Oh, okay. When you said he was too cool, I was imagining like he was acting up and then he came back acting different.
No, too cool isn't like he's really brilliant. All of our children are brilliant, but he's super like ahead of the curve, but like really tries on things. And then he came back and he like dyed half of his hair one color, and like now he's all fashionable. Like it's cool. Like now he's like super cool. So it's cool to see like kids, you know, kind of grow into their own. But I was dying at that like response. That's such a thoughtful question. Like, thank you, bro. Okay, so today's topic: people that think that they know everything, and you might be like, Carlie, that's not me. And I would advise you to still listen because it probably is in very sneaky ways. But it was making me think about how the two words I know, like if you're like, I already know that, then you're less likely to read about a thing or to learn about a thing. In a relationship, if somebody does something, if you think you already know why they did stuff, it can really inhibit your growth. And I challenge all of us, know-it-alls or denying that you know it all, but you still be acting like that in certain scenarios, to try to see life in a new way so we can maybe learn and grow.
Yeah, definitely important because you have to stay curious, but not just curious, but being open. And I think one of the biggest things about this topic that is the cause for like, maybe this is something to work on is the fact that you thinking you know it all is also very much like tied to ego and kind of like having like a block between you and people to a degree. And so just even being able to not judge and to be like an open book and not take things personally, you know, and not connecting everything to you is just something to practice in general. Letting, you know, words and things that happen and everything like run through you and you really like taking what you need and leaving the rest. But a lot of times if I know everything, then it's almost like you're competing with anybody, you know, when you're even having a conversation or talking, and it's just like almost like being in a state of conflict a lot. We had one episode one time about I don't know, what was it exactly? We were kind of talking about how you know, like the tone of your voice when you're talking to people, and it just seeming like you're kind of always like jabbing and things like that. And it's like, okay, you might be a great person, and understanding that like those type of characteristics can hinder your relationships, hinder your own growth. So we'll talk about knowing too much today.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's really ego driven. And it stems from a place of maybe equating your knowledge and as your worth. And maybe that's why you're defensive about it and correct people. Or why else would we feel like we know everything or need to even correct people or be right all the time?
Or maybe even connecting with that, maybe it's also like a low self-esteem. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the word I want to use, but for example, if you're connecting like your worth to knowing things. If you're a person who, you're used to everybody being like, oh, what's this, Lex? Or have you heard about this? And like, if you don't know, like, maybe it's like, oh, shoot, I don't know, I'm less than, and all those things, which, again, that's out of proportion. But in general, those thoughts and feelings of like feeling like you need to know everything because that's connected to your self-esteem could be a thing.
Yeah, I think also maybe it could be in like thinking about relationships, it could be like a protection mechanism. So maybe, if someone was aloof and, not as responsive, maybe your old partner cheated on you. So now you just assume that whenever that happens, man, I know what's going on. And you could be trying to protect yourself and or creating these narratives that don't really have to be there. And that's an extreme example, but I think we do this in a lot of different ways just based on our own experience. Like if someone is late to meetings, then they're lazy instead of like having a conversation and figuring out what's going on. I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth.
Also, people who, if you feel like you know everything, it might be because you were expected to growing up. If you were used to being praised by your parents or guardian figures, teachers, etc., it feels good to be praised. And as children, and during the years when you're growing up, a lot of times that's all these different figures. And a lot of times I would say that's based on like school and, doing well in classes, etc., etc. And so that could be a way that you're building up this idea that it's good to, be that person who knows everything.
All of that, all of those reasons, and probably a lot more that we didn't address. But I think it's important to address because, quite frankly, it can really hinder your relationships and make people not want to talk to you. And it can also keep you in a cycle or a loop without being able to expand and grow into something and be curious and open for new knowledge and expansion in your own life.
And that's interesting too. You said it can keep people from wanting to talk to you. And that's interesting to me because being a know-it-all, there's nothing wrong with actually knowing things. But like what we're really talking about is you really don't know and you're assuming you always have something to say still about something, or when asked, you're still going to just say something instead of being like, yeah, I don't really know. So like just to also clarify that slight detail that it's fine to know things. Like if you're a genius, cool, whatever. But people, when they don't want to talk to you, it may be because your knowing everything is like stepping all over them in whatever the situation is.
And so hopping into signs that you might be a know-it-all without owning or even knowing it. The first one is dominating conversations, constantly interrupting people, cutting folks off, as you often steer the conversation towards your own expertise and rarely give others a chance to speak fully. Like if they're like, oh, I think most people voted for, oh yeah, I know why they voted for that. They did it because of da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, that's not actually even what I was talking about. But if you find yourself doing that, that could be a sign that you are a know-it-all.
I did that so bad. And I still do it, and it's much better, and I catch it. Like, now when I interrupt people, I'm always like, dang it. But I used to do that so bad. And I remember times in, it had to be like maybe 2010 or 11, when with my boyfriend at the time with me, and I was out somewhere networking with somebody on some work stuff. And I remember afterwards, he's like, yo, you got to stop cutting people off. Because, like, the person would talk, and I just would finish their sentence. But also, I think in this case, too, when we talk about why people are know-it-alls, in a case like that, interrupting everything is like me being impatient also. Like, I actually don't want to hear what you're talking about, and I'm not really listening. I just want to get to the end. And when people tell stories, it's really hard for me. Today, even when I was talking to somebody, and I was just sitting there, I was like, wait till they finish speaking. And it's so hard for me sometimes. In those moments, I don't feel like I think I know it all. And yeah, and I think I know the answers, and I know what they're going to say. So yeah. But then you get humbled sometimes when it's like, yeah, and then da-da-da-da-da, and they're like, no, it was this. So it's like, oh, let me just shut up and actually listen. I don't know why that's so hard for me sometimes, but I've been an interrupter since I was a kid. My parents said I used to answer for my brothers, all kind of stuff.
You know what's funny is you started telling your story, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it's funny, I have definite signs of know-it-all. But for me, I didn't think this was one of them. But then I think back to my first job as an engineer, and I was talking to my boss, and he was talking. I kept like finishing his sentence, and he was like, "God damn it!"
Bro, it be like that. You don't realize it's that frustrating till it's you, and it's like, oh damn, like. But you know what? I think also, so we didn't really touch on this, but it can also be like you want approval, you know,
yes,
in those times, and you want people to be like, oh, you're so smart, but really it's just annoying. That's so funny,
and you want to connect or whatever. He was like, God damn it! He just was like, and I was like,
yeah, when you get called out on it, that feels the worst. When somebody's like, can I speak?
And then he apologized. He was like, I'm so sorry.
Nah, you
like,
right though.
Just give me a chance to finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's real.
And I was like. And I think from that moment I was much more like, let me chew,
you
because
he
lost it.
That's
Man,
funny
shout
as hell.
out to Mark. Yo, hope you having a good day. But that is one way, and like it's harmless in the sense like you just want to connect with somebody, or you want approval, or you want to feel like, oh yeah, we on the same page. Let people talk. Just let them talk, and then you can reply.
That's funny. Another sign that you might be a know-it-all is if you're very, very stuck in your ways. So for you, there's like your way to do a thing. There's a right way to do it. There's a way that works for you. And so you're not really willing to try other things. I'm actually working with somebody who's kind of like this now. But also it's like, I'll let you do it how you do it, because you can also see like, I can't force you to open up to new things. We could talk about it, and I'll gently bring different ideas and things up. But it's like, you're like, yeah, I'm stuck in my ways. I'm going to just have to do it the way I do it. And then the timing for their project might be the timing in their project because of how they do things. And that's not something you can change. But if you're very stuck in how things have to be done, you're probably closing yourself off to new information and other things to do and try.
Yeah, and if you get irritated if people try to, find a new way or do something differently than you, and it bothers you so much and you want to correct them, reel that in, because it's okay for us to be different. And also there might be a better way that didn't exist when you first started. I think about whenever I worked in food, or when I worked in food service, and it's like student employees with older employees. And we're new, so we were like, what about this? Why do you have to do it like this? And they would get so mad. And it's like, I get it. Like, yes, there is a procedure, and if it could be done a different way. Yeah. So try to stay open whenever you can. I think that's important.
And I guess there's a balance both ways too with that, because it's like, is this that serious where I feel like I need to change the whole company as the, new person working here? And, those people who have that mindset of questioning things, and especially when you have leadership who listens to that and actually wants things to be efficient, because it's amazing to me how many people actually don't want to be efficient. They just want to do things the way they do it. I just got a letter from them Department of Education because I had to fax them my taxes because I'm trying to do my student loan things. Then they mailed me something back 20 days later to then tell me something else I got to do. And it's just like, this is so dumb. Like, y'all shouldn't be doing it like this. Anyway, they need to not be stuck in their ways. They need to wipe all these loans out. But that's another topic for another day. But I'm with that too, actually. I'm not that stuck in my ways, but I recognize my ways, and I recognize I'll get frustrated when people do things differently. And I've recognized, especially with work stuff, shout out Carl Blevins, my number one on the team. He sees things so different than me and does things so different, but like he does them. So I'll be like, let me just shut up and like let you do it the way you do it. And then when he presents his final thing, it's like, oh, this is amazing. So it's like, I don't need to worry about that. You got it. Another sign that you might be a know-it-all is if you're very quick to judge. Oh yeah, I'm super quick to judge. When you jump to conclusions about situations based on limited information and are critical of others. And that doesn't have to be as evil as it sounds, like at any, levels that you're kind of criticizing. Like, if somebody's driving and you're that person who's kind of like they're braking too hard or they're moving too fast or doing a thing. I will catch myself having those kind of comments. A lot of times they're internal now though. And you got to pick and choose when you want to actually mention stuff. But yeah, I'll catch myself making a judgment and then try to reel it back. So again, I think I'm actually getting better with a lot of this stuff. It's like in my heart and soul to be a know-it-all. However, I am doing pretty good with all of these. Like I've recognized them over time, and I for sure at least catch them.
growth. We love that.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of it.
A whole lot. That's why y'all are here. Another sign that you might be a know-it-all is if you lack empathy, if you're not able to see things from other people's point of view, if you're not able to understand why certain things impact people the way that they do, or even like are so tunnel vision that you couldn't even fathom how that could affect somebody. Like I challenge you, we did a whole episode on empathy and how to build your empathy muscle. It is so important to building relationships and community.
Yeah, and I feel like I see a lot of that in the political spaces where it's just like people are so quick to be like, oh, well, you just need to be doing this, or, you know, well, why isn't this happening? And disregarding a lot of information and, you know, hardship and things people have gone through, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like you don't understand anything until it happens to you, which is just really like a problem in general. Another one is if you have a dismissive attitude. So if you're somebody who rolls your eyes often, sighs at people, check that body language. If you say things like, everybody knows that, or duh, like, you know, and you kind of put people down when they're talking, then that's, to me, pretty obvious know-it-all behavior. And it's just kind of rude also. I do that a lot. I roll my eyes a lot, and I make a lot of noises and body language and stuff like that. And that's one of those things that you just want to make sure you catch yourself so you're not on autopilot with it.
That one's really important. And I feel like I automatically get annoyed when some of those things happen, like from someone else, like, ugh. And then you got two defensive people, so it doesn't ever build for a good situation. The last one that I could think of is if you're correcting people. And I was laughing.
Ambrose Clancy.
I was laughing because one of my friends pointed out that I do this, but in a kind way. And I was like, they told me that if someone, you know, says the library, that in the next sentence, I will say library, but I won't correct them. I'll just be like, oh, you went to the library? Like as a way for them to like hear it
That's
correctly.
That's not bad though. You could have did that in a mean way. Like if they're like, oh yeah, the library, da 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 da. And to like call them out on it and be like, not the library, you mean the library? Or you like say it differently. Or people who actually be like, library? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be a lot ruder. Because I'm about to say, you ain't never corrected me, but also I know it all, so no need for correction.
And that's growth, because I remember back when we first got social media, when people would mistype
that
on
spelling.
there. Oh, my God. I used to, like, but even now, when I see friends post things, if I see a misspelling, I'll text them on the side or message them, like, hey, did you know that was wrong? Like, my homegirl posted her workout link. She's a trainer. She posted her link.
Yeah.
I went and clicked on it, and the link looked like her appointments looked crazy to me. And so I messaged her. I said, hey sis, so excited about you training. I clicked your link and it looked weird. And then she was like,
you might want to fix that.
She was like, oh, well, I didn't think it was weird. And I was like, okay, well, don't worry about me then. If you knew what it, I was just making sure you knew what it looked like. And then she came back later and was like, okay, you were right. It did look crazy. And I was like, in my head, I know. I'm just saying.
Just check it.
But I think that's I think that's a nice way to like. I saw this. Do you have an issue? Did you know this was misspelled? Do you care? Because if not, I'll leave you alone about it.
That's real. And I think a good point out of that also is that this is especially important for you if you do have a brand, a business, making money of any kind. You have to be open. You can't be that person who knows everything because you will not grow. Definitely, you got to stay open just for the fact of seeing every piece of feedback, every correction, every bit of knowledge that you didn't know. See all of that as a resource to help you.
I think that's actually the first step to how to be open for growth and newness is to actually, like you said, be open and think about feedback and responses and things that people say to you as opportunities for growth, not taking them negatively. Because she could have took that and been like, this bitch, like, you know, and been mad, but she didn't. And she actually looked at it and was like, oh, wait. So just thinking about, you know, when people tell you stuff, most of the time it's out of love. If it's not, I feel like you could discern that or just like write that off. But if it comes out of love from a good place, like maybe I should actually think about it this way or at least look at it.
And maybe that's the thing with know-it-alls too, is that, you know, you might have a tendency to take things personally. If you don't take it personal, it's literally nothing but information for you, whether you take it or not.
And then the next one is to be curious. So we have like being open, take a pause and not taking things personally, but then be curious. So when somebody does something, instead of assuming their intent or assuming you know why, like ask something. And you could say like, what makes you say that? Instead of thinking, man, they said that because they did it. What makes you say that? Or
that's super important because we are quick to be like, if somebody said, oh yeah, you know they about to what everybody say, like, oh yeah, Karen Bass cut the budget, so da 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 da, or you know, just saying information, And even if you think it might be right or wrong or what, it's like, oh, what did you see? And like just literally opening up for more information. That is something I don't do a lot, that I definitely could practice more. But just because a lot of times I just let people talk, and then I just, I don't know, I might look up my own stuff later. But it is kind of cool to ask people where they heard that or what information they got, because maybe it's something you haven't seen.
Mm-hmm. And so being curious, asking them maybe where you saw it, I think that's important. And also, if you notice you're wrong, you can go back and correct that. So I actually shared a post that said she cut it, and then I got the real information and went back and shared that again. And I'm like, hey, actually, this is what happened.
Yeah, because we don't know. There's so much like research around every little thing to be done, and it's almost just like it's so much information coming towards you. I think that's also a reason why now with my social, I don't use it to inform as much anymore. I used to be more of informing. I feel like now it feels like a lot of people want to be journalists or feel like they're some news reporter, and it's like, actually, you're not. You don't have to do that. I would like to just go to BBC or CNN or whatever and just see what the news is without everybody just making statements or putting breaking in all caps or before they say something. So that makes it a little more difficult to cipher through information, and because of that, you have to have extra diligence when you're reading things, looking through things. And again, like even if I read it, I believe some things I've read, and then I got other information, but also I didn't talk about it. So it's like, okay, I'm still learning. If I'm not a expert in whatever, like I don't know, unless somebody's asking me or we're talking about it, then you probably don't need to be a reporter.
That is an excellent point. And one I didn't know how to work into this. You also just don't have to have an opinion on everything, and don't have to talk about everything that happens, because there is entirely too much going on in the world. And if you are super broad and try to talk about everything, it's just a lot of uninformed nonsense going around. And in this day and age, we really can't afford that. So you really don't have to have opinions about everything.
And keep in mind, probably your opinion just came from you seeing somebody else saying something. You know what I mean? Like, you just gotta stop until it came from a source. And not,
please,
just not.
Please.
But also, when you are saying something that needs correction, or a person saying something or doing something, question your intention for correcting them and how you correct them. Pay attention to how as well. So thinking about the relationship, is this a thing where you need to be right, or do you just need to be happy with this person? Because everything doesn't need to be corrected. Do you believe that the information will benefit them? So like maybe you don't want them to keep saying wrong information, or maybe you don't want them to keep saying library, or maybe if it's this person's business, like you want to make sure that they're actually going to make some money. So those things, it's like, okay, I'm trying to help them. And also being open to the idea that you might not know, or you might be wrong. So they may know more than you. So the way you tell people something or try to correct them, it may be like, oh, have you thought about this? Or here's another idea I had, or I thought I had. It might not be like in a correct them, but like just offering information to them as well. And get to the root of why you feel the need to connect with people, because that's really what this is in disguise. Like Carlie said earlier, you finishing their sentences like, oh yeah, we're right in sync. And it's like, girl, you are wrong and you're being rude. And so it's like, well, why do you need to not even fake it, but like, why do you need to force this? Like being aligned with them so bad and anything like you so bad. That's something always to look at. And then lastly, remind yourself of your intention when you go into conversations. So when you're going into the conversation, I'll do this with work, like how I said with Carl before too. It's like, I know we're about to talk about how to do a thing. So like, let me just let him see how he would approach it, because it's always so different. But just like going into it, being ready to like listen and let people do things the way they do them, and then kind of putting myself in there as needed.
I think that to sum this up, whenever you are a know-it-all, you have a closed mindset and you're not able to grow from there. And so these are all ways to have a growth mindset. So staying curious, thinking about your intentions, thinking about delivery, like why you're doing certain things, so that you can just continue to grow and have more opportunities. I would love for y'all to hit us this week at Carlie's Couch. First of all, to let us know if y'all are know-it-alls too. We're not. And also if any of this was hopeful.
Peace out. We'll see you next week.